somebody just uncovered what may be one of the biggest dropshipping scams I've ever seen on YouTube. But what's really funny is that I actually covered this dropshipping store like a year ago, and I talked about it. And I also noticed back then how it was definitely very fishy, and I also called it a scam back then. So let's watch this breakdown and see what it's all about.
If you watched a video from Graham Stephan, Andre Jick, Some Ordinary Gamers, or The Quartering in the past year, you've probably seen a sponsorship from the company Established Titles. Now, despite glowing reviews from some of YouTube's largest and most trusted creators, this company is a complete scam. Now, I do have to say that I believe most of these creators don't realize that it's a scam, with the exception of one, who we'll talk about in a minute, but that does not get these guys off the hook, and they need to do more research on a sponsorship before accepting the $20K plus a month these guys are making from doing deals with this scam company.
That's a pretty good point, especially considering FTX's collapse and how many people promoted FTX as well. So very good point from this guy.
Now, before I break down how this company is a scam, I'm going to let these creators in a montage of clips explain what the company wants you to believe they are doing.
All thanks to our sponsor, Established Titles. Their project based
Bro, I cannot believe that Graham Stephan promoted this store. This is a dropshipping store, and you'll see it in a minute. This is crazy.
Historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lords or ladies in English. And that means, as of today, that's right, I'm officially a lord.
Better than that is to give those fun, tangible assets as gifts for the upcoming holidays. And thanks to today's sponsor, Established Titles, you can do exactly that and become a lord or lady.
Shout out to this video's sponsor, Established Titles. Established Titles is a project based on a historic Scottish custom where land...
Do you remember this? Some of you OGs out there on my channel will probably remember this, but... yeah, this is a dropshipping store. This is straight up a dropshipping store. They'll cover it a little bit here.
Referred to as lairds or lords and ladies in English. They allow people to buy as little as 1 square foot of dedicated land so they can call themselves a lord.
Look at this landing page. This is literally like the Brooklyn theme. I can't believe that these massive creators were shilling this company.
Or a lady officially. In return, they commit to plant a tree with every order and protect the beautiful, pristine woodlands of Scotland.
Today's video is brought to you by our friends over at Established Titles. Do you want to help global reforestation efforts? Do you want to help preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland? Well, here's a
pretty good
nice
sell.
last-minute gift to absolutely do that right for you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds or lords and ladies in English. This entire thing gives you 1 square foot of dedicated land with a unique plot number, kind of like an NFT, except it exists in reality.
Now, unfortunately, everything said there, from the buying of land to being given a lord title and even the planting of trees, is a complete lie. After researching this company, I uncovered a web of shell companies devised to hide who actually operates this scam, and what I will show you in this video will truly shock you. So with that being said, let's break this scam apart piece by piece. The first issue is the most fundamental, and that is the fact that when you buy one of their 1 square foot plots of land in Scotland, you aren't actually buying any land at all. What they are...
Damn, they're selling some of those for 150 bucks. That's actually insane. I mean, I hate to say it, guys, but these guys are kind of geniuses over there. I mean, I can't believe they actually got people to buy this. It's just unbelievable, truly.
Essentially selling you is a gag gift known as a souvenir plot. Under the Scotland Law and Registration Act of 2012, it's not allowed for these small plots of land to be legally sold. The law states, Land Registration Scotland Act of 2012, Section 22, in subsection 1b, souvenir plot means a plot of land which is of inconsiderable size and of no practice utility, and is neither a registered plot nor a plot the ownership of which has at any time separately been constituted or transferred by a document recorded to the Registrar of Sassenus. The seller will unlikely sell a souvenir plot of both considerable size or practical utility and a registered plot. The disposition will be unable to be registered in the land registrar. This means that the buyer cannot acquire a real right of ownership in Scots law. Therefore, it is impossible for buyers of the sale to become owners of a souvenir plot. No other form of ownership is recognized by the real right of ownership, as discussed above, owing to Scots property laws, Romans laws of influence. So basically, the company that owns Established Titles, and I'll get into who they are in a minute, bought up a bunch of large parcels of land and is selling off phony titles to small portions of it. If you were to go to Scotland and try and claim your land, or try and do anything with it really, you would be laughed at because you don't actually own anything. Established Titles is still the landowner, and they give you a worthless piece of paper telling you that you own land when under the laws of Scotland, you clearly do not. Another big selling point they have is that if you buy a piece of land in Scotland, the custom is that you now become a lord or lady and can add that official title to your name. Sadly, this couldn't be any farther from the truth. Now, this old wives' tale has been around for a long time, and the Court of the Lord Lion, which is the highest court in Scotland in regard to giving out titles, said this to clear up the situation. Ownership of a souvenir plot of land does not bring with it the right to any description such as laird, lord, or lady.
This
the
guy's
words
going
lord
deep.
and lady appear to those on whom a peerage has been confirmed and do not relate to the ownership of land. Ownership of a souvenir plot of land is not sufficient to bring a person otherwise ineligible within the jurisdiction of the Lord Lion for seeking a coat of arms. So right there from the highest court in Scotland, they said flat out that ownership of land does not bestow a title of lord or lady to you. So established titles is 2 strikes down, and before
Makes
we put the
sense.
final nail in the coffin, I think it's safe to say that they are a scam. They don't actually sell you any land, and they have no right to bestow a title of lord or lady to you. Now, the final issue I want to bring up is the fact that they say that they plant trees with every purchase, and that by buying one of their plots of land, you are saving the woodlands by buying it and preventing its use for other means. Now, established
That is
titles
so
does not
genius.
plant any trees, despite what their YouTube sponsors tell you. The only thing established titles does is donate money to an actual tree planting company called One Tree Planted. On top of that, they have never provided any evidence that they are actually donating money to back up their claims. So basically, you have to take the company's word that they are really donating money to plant trees.
You know, I gotta say, given all the previous evidence that this guy provided, chances are they're actually not donating any money, which would be really unfortunate, because at the very least, if this scam was donating some money to reforestation, I mean, that doesn't excuse it at all, right? But that would feel a little better, I guess. Still, though, this whole elaborate plan is so genius, and I can't believe it got this far. Like, I covered this over a year ago, and it's still kicking, and now it's infiltrated YouTube mainstream. It's so crazy.
On top of that, if you really wanted to plant trees, you could save yourself some money by not buying a scam plot of land and just give your money directly to One Tree Planted. Finally, the land that they own is already part of a protected land plot away from any major cities, so by giving them money, you are not actually helping the environment in any way, you are just lining the pockets of these scammers. Now, at this point, I think I have made it very clear that this company is a scam, and hopefully most of these big creators will cease partnerships with this company. Some of these creators do seem to know that the company is at the very least fishy. Spencer Cornelia, former Grift Slayer, has been responding to people leaving comments on his videos the past few days about the company being a scam, and Spencer's response is basically he thinks it's okay if it's a scam because it's harmless and they're planting trees with your money. So according to Spencer's logic, if I were to steal something from his house, pawn it off, and then use some of the money to plant some trees, he would be okay with it because ultimately I did something good. So with all that being said, I think it's fairly clear this is a scam company, but let's go into just who actually owns and operates this company, and it's a whole web of different companies that's involved with this, so it's pretty crazy. So if you actually come to their website, Established Titles, this is it right here, and one thing I have to mention right at the top, right now they have a Black Friday sale, and they always seem to have a timer. You can come back any time of day.
Look at this
anytime,
store,
and
guys.
there's always a countdown clock of 1 hour, so you got to get your deal right away, and that's a very scammy thing that a lot of these scam companies do, a timer that basically never runs out. You can come back later, it restarts. But if you go down to the bottom of the page, you go to the About Us section of Established Titles, and you'll see that it has this picture of this lady, and basically it says that this lady, Katarina Yip, created Established Titles after visiting the Scotland countryside. She fell in love. She wanted to start her company. Great, that's all fantastic. So we can actually look this lady up. I found her on LinkedIn. This is her page right here. And if you go to her LinkedIn page, you can see that she's based out of Hong Kong, which is very interesting.
Failed
not
Ventures.
not in Scotland or anywhere near it. But you can see that she's actually involved. She's currently employed by 3 different companies. The first is called Failed Ventures, where she's the co-founder and president. And she's
Who names their company Fail Ventures? That's so funny.
also a board member of Galton Voicier, I think that's how you say it, and a board member of Trifecta Retail Ventures. So let's take a closer look at these 3 companies, and it's going to be really interesting what we find. So if we go over to Fail Ventures, this is their actual page, and it says, "Come fail together." which I think is quite funny. That's the name of the company that is running this scam company, Established Titles. It's Fail Ventures,
That's
Come
so
Fail
funny.
Together. So basically what this is, it's a venture capital firm, someone who we'll get into who it is in just a minute, but they pump a bunch of money into this company, and this company tries to set up a bunch of these fairly shady, if I would say somewhat scammy companies online. They're all internet, e-based commerce websites trying to make a bunch of money, and you can see that they have all of the failed companies. They've had like 70 failed companies, and eventually they have one or two companies that are successes and make a bunch of money. And these are their 4 successful companies. They have Deal Dash, which we'll talk about in just a minute, Galton Voicier, which is the other company that this lady Katarina works at, which we'll get into, Kamakito Knives, and Established Titles. So Fail Ventures is the company that owns Established Titles. They also own Kamikoto Knives.
Failed
now, if
Ventures.
you don't know about Kamikoto Knives, they're another company that is heavily promoted on YouTube. I believe I just saw a sponsorship post from them on the quartering just the other day. I think he did that as well.
Huge shout out to this video sponsor, Kamikoto. That's right, Kamikoto makes Japanese steel kitchen knives.
This company is killing it. Okay, like I'm gonna put my e-commerce hat on right now and say, god damn, YouTubers will take any sponsorship out here. This is so crazy.
Using traditional techniques from Japan.
So they're another big company that's promoted. They're also run by the same company that owns and operates Established Titles. Now, from there, if you actually look at Fail Ventures, we'll go to their About Us section, and you can see these people at the top. These 2 people you need to be aware of. They're at all these companies. There's William Wolfram, he's the CEO co-founder, and Katarina Yip, who is the president co-founder. So keep in mind, those are the 2 people. So from there, from Fail Ventures, they're the ones that own Established. Let's go to the next company. Now, the next company is Galton Voicier. This is their LinkedIn page. It says they are a manufacturing company located in Hong Kong. This is their actual website right here. If you go down to
so this whole thing is a Hong Kong-based operation, and they got the manufacturing arm side of it. They got the e-commerce side of it. You know, as much as this is a scam, it's quite genius.
their all-star team page and look at their people at the board. You can see William Wolfram and Katarina Yip again at this company as well. And this company seems to be the manufacturing arm of all of these different products they create, as far as the knives, as far as getting sponsorships for established titles. That's what this company seems to do. Now, both of these companies are based out of Hong Kong, so China basically. And I think it's very interesting that these companies are based out of a country that has very lax business laws. You can get away with a lot more somewhat shady type business practices in Hong Kong and China, as opposed
That's why they're in Hong Kong and China.
to most Western countries. Now, what's really interesting is if you look at the third company, which is Trifecta Retail Ventures, they are based out of they have an office in Hong Kong, but they're based out of primarily southern Finland. So they're from Finland, and this company is actually owned by the Wolfram guy that we saw on the other page. So all three of these companies were founded by William Wolfram, and William Wolfram is a Finnish man who I believe he has a long history of creating some of these.
This is the evil genius behind all these ventures. This guy is pretty interesting, man. I gotta admit, he's got a wicked mind, but he's smart. He's definitely
I would say
smart.
shady companies. He dropped out of school and at 16 created the website Deal Dash. So this was his first company that actually made him a ton of money. And then he has since created these other companies in Hong Kong that now produce these other shady type companies online. Now, Deal Dash, if you're not familiar with this, I won't go too detailed into it. Deal Dash is basically like an eBay ripoff type site, but what they have is massively discounted prices on their products. Some products, you can get like a barbecue that's normally like $200, and it's currently going for $1, right? Now, how it works is people bid on these items, and it slowly goes up over time. Now, aside from eBay, how eBay works is the top bidder has to pay for the product. On Deal Dash, everyone who posts a bid, you have to pay for all of your bids. Now, it does say that in the small print, but most people don't realize that. So people will put all these bids in for like $1, $1.50, $2, and what they don't realize is at the end, even if they don't win the item, they have to pay all of the bids they made. So this company is incredibly shady, and they make a ton of money
That's so
by
crazy.
by these people who don't read the fine print, and they have to end up spending a bunch of money. So what ended up happening was there was actually a lawsuit against Deal Dash because some of these customers, they were having very deceptive marketing. We're saying like this lady, they have a bunch of ads where this lady is like, oh, I won this thing for $2. But what they don't tell you is she actually spent like $100 in bids and actually paid more than the manufacturer retail price of the product because she had to bid so much. So
I don't know how he came up with this stuff, but I gotta admit, this is some evil genius stuff. It really is. Obviously, it goes without saying, but I don't condone any of this. Like, yeah, I'm laughing about it. This is kind of funny. He's clearly just capitalizing off of people's stupidity. It's hard for me to believe that a lot of people take this stuff seriously, but at the same time, it just goes to show that when it comes to e-commerce, more often than not, it's not really about what you think would work. It's about just testing things, because obviously not scams, but just in general, people have weird customer behaviors that you would not expect. I don't want to say that people are dumber than you would think, but based on stuff like this, I think a statement like that is somewhat justified.
This website has been sued before. There's a bunch of scammy stuff going on here. And one thing that's really interesting is if you actually go back to failed ventures and you look at a lot of these failed products, they were actually selling on DealDash. This was part of the lawsuit that DealDash was involved in, that DealDash was pretending that a lot of these products were actually high-end name brands, but they were actually products that were created by the creator of DealDash, and they were just putting them on their site, and DealDash didn't actually have to pay pretty much anything for these products because they were creating the products.
Dude, that is so smart.
This guy, Wolfram, has a history of these incredibly, I'll say, shady companies that he operates, and now he has moved pretty much all of his businesses over to Hong Kong, which is really interesting because he is from Finland. So why would he do that? Now, like I said, my opinion is because Hong Kong and Chinese laws are a lot more lax as opposed to the laws in, Finland or most Western countries. So I just think that's incredibly shady. Now, one thing I have to mention is all of these websites, whether you go...
It is shady. It's definitely operating in this sort of gray area. It's a scam, but it's not the worst scam in the world. So definitely a gray area.
Go to Established Titles or any of the companies that own or work with Established Titles, there is no mention of them ever having an office anywhere in Scotland or the UK. They are firmly based out of Hong Kong. They have no connection whatsoever to Scotland, and they don't seem to have any offices there. Now, if you actually go to Established Titles, they do have an address for in Scotland, and that address just leads to one of the plots of land that they have bought. So they do own a bunch of land in Scotland, but they don't appear to have any offices there. So from what I've said earlier in this video and what I've shown about who actually owns and operates this company, it's run by William Wolfram, who has a history of making DealDash and these other type shady companies. I don't know why anyone would want to do business with Established Titles. I really see no reason why we want to do that. They're not a legitimate company. They're basically just taking your money, and you're hoping that they'll tell the truth, and they are actually donating some money to plant trees, because I can't find any evidence on their website that they are actually planting any trees. But I'd love to hear your opinion below. What do you think about this? Do you think these creators are fine for promoting or sponsoring this company, or do you think they should all stop? Leave your comment below. One thing I want to add at the end, there will be a list below, a pin list of people who have been sponsored by this company. If you know someone else who is also sponsored by it, let me know and I'll add them to the list as well.
Holy. Okay, guys, so here's basically a lot of value for those of you out there that are running e-commerce businesses. Here is a list of influencers that will just take your money and promote whatever it is you want. So, holy, that is insane. YouTube influencers are out of control. Look at this list. This is crazy. These guys probably have done like 10 million through these people. Well, hopefully this video raises awareness about this stuff. Again, I'm not here to endorse any sort of scams. I think scamming people is pretty pathetic. I also think this is kind of funny. I mean, I don't know. I can't help but laugh a little bit just knowing that people actually are buying this sort of stuff. But just like this guy said, let me know what you think. This was a great video. Very well done. I'm going to link his video in the description, of course. And yeah, that's about it for this one. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.